Greetings, Wunderkind, and welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where our group of friends scramble each week to bring you the best of the rabbit holes we've dove down in the week preceding recording, or sometimes the hours before. This is episode 89, recorded May 23rd, 2022, and I'm your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanus. Down below me, we have Seeker4761, also known as Colton Roper. In the corner, because apparently that's where we're putting him now, Fake Farang, also known as Tim Rind. And then in the other corner, adjacent to me, we have Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. How are all you fine folks doing today?
Excellent.
Good.
Good.
Pretty good.
I am back from the dead, because head colds that turn into sinus infections suck at 8,000 feet elevation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And doing an interview, I'm sure wasn't greatest with a head cold.
Thankfully, it had cleared just enough that it was
Okay.
It was okay. I was feeling 100% for the interview. The stuff
All good.
before and after, maybe. But I was excited for the interview. I hope that maybe I can share good news next recording, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be like, God damn it. Thanks.
You could just
I hate computers.
You could just make some up. I mean, there's
I have good
that
news,
option.
but not the news about the job that I wanted.
Yeah, it could be like Futurama.
I don't know.
Good news, everyone.
But not really.
I really just did that for Fry's benefit. I know those episodes way too well. Luke likes to watch those just...
You heard they're coming out with yet another iteration.
What?
They're bringing the show back on Hulu. Yet again.
Yes.
No.
Excellent.
Why no?
It's ended 4 times. Granted, every ending has been incredible. So I'm excited for another ending episode because it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But the last one was perfect. And things are okay to end. It's okay to let things end. We don't have to keep it going until we've
That's true.
taken all the value
The
and
joy.
turned it into a lifeless husk.
Yeah.
I don't know,
It would have been
We're
bad
able
if
to watch
they ever
it, but
if they continued Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You know, if they had gone too far on that one, that would have been a bad thing to go.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So-
we've got a normal episode again, finally. So 3 of us are going to be discussing. Our peanut gallery today is going to be Tim. But Cody is going to talk to us
Peanut.
about new ways of playing with sticks. Okay.
Well, that's okay.
Kinky.
Because Colton is going to talk about a fun guy.
the funnest guy, if you will. So, fun.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon's going to close it out with adventures in docking and resurrecting the not-so-dead.
Oh, that sounds a little bit. First part doesn't sound very good.
Combine that with the sticks
Yeah.
part, it gets weird, doesn't it?
Oh, guys.
This has been This Week I'm Learning. We'll see you guys next week. Last episode.
No. Couldn't end it on that. All right, Cody. Well, tell us
Get
about
past
a
the
new
YouTube
way of
censors.
playing with sticks, and hopefully it's not docking.
Actually,
Stop.
it could involve that.
We're not gonna
To be
get
fair.
banned by YouTube. It's not that smart.
So thankfully, what I'm talking about are joysticks. Not
Okay.
that kind.
Oh.
So, as everybody may or may not know, I enjoy playing Star Citizen and things where you fly other things. And as part of that, I have my current setup uses a Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS, which basically means
Whoa.
I have a stick and throttle, which is pretty awesome. I will unclamp one of these from my desk So
There's only one brand you can get that's better than that. That's pretty impressive.
Virpil.
Yeah.
Purple. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, Virpil has some stuff that like combines with this, so you can actually get. But anyway, I've got this other piece here, like show and tell on TWIL right now. But yeah,
It's a good thing we're an audio medium too.
Yeah, has a bunch of heft to it. You can feel the heft. Maybe the ting. Well, that's actually plastic.
I'm happy with my 16,000.
Yeah, but as part of this, when I play, I like to have all of my buttons configured in a very specific way, and that way is generally not the same way that Star Citizen wants to configure all of my buttons, because I am
and the
very.
girlfriend also could fit in here, right?
Speaking of being banned by YouTube.
Peanut gallery.
But, so I like to have my stuff configured in special ways, because that's the way that I think. I want this button to be for countermeasures. I don't want this button to be for countermeasures. So, the way in which I have been doing that recently, or, well, not so recently, for the last couple of years, has been with the Thrustmaster Target software. Originally, I tried with the regular GUI software, then I moved on to the script editor software, which is really powerful and actually has its own language in it to get things to do what you want it to do. However, as I've been thinking about combining various joysticks together and maybe getting some rudder pedals, as I've been thinking about adding in more pieces to it, for instance, getting another brand of rudder pedals or something else. The problem is the Thrustmaster software only works with Thrustmaster devices. So using something else becomes problematic in that. And that's why I have discovered Joystick Gremlin, which is a piece of software that you can use to remap any big joystick. So rudder pedals, if you go with the Vorpal Warbird stuff, I don't know because I haven't messed with the Steam controller side with it, but I believe you can do that too. If it shows up as a joystick and uses DirectX buttons, you can remap it, and you can remap. What
about like
keys.
racing wheels? I'm guessing probably racing wheels. Yes.
I would imagine that it would work with racing wheels as well.
Sweet.
Basically, anything with buttons or with sliders, you can remap, and you can remap macros onto keys, and you can remap. A thing that I like is an issue that I run into with the Thrustmaster is the throttle has a bunch of switches on it, which becomes problem when the game. So Arma, it's really cool because Arma will detect the switch as a switch, and you can tell it it's a toggle or not a toggle for the button. However, Star Citizen does not have that, which means it's expecting momentary presses for the activation of everything. So when you have a switch and you want to tell it to be a momentary press, it becomes problematic, but not with Joystick Gremlin. So what I do is, for one of the switches, I tell it to run a macro that basically presses the K key on the keyboard. And then if I switch it back, it will, on the release of that switch, it will then run that macro a second time. So it acts as I'm hitting the button once when I flip the switch on, and then when I release it, it basically does it in reverse. So
that makes sense.
It's super useful for that type of thing. And you can combine, I think it's something like, actually let me run it here real quick, and I can tell you. So in order to get this to work, you have to actually install 3 different programs. So you have to install VJoy, which basically is a virtual joystick. So Joystick Gremlin can bind your physical devices to a virtual controller, and then joystick gremlin, and then there's another thing called hide, which will hide your physical joysticks from the program. That way you don't accidentally you don't map the physical joysticks to the program. You instead map the virtual joystick to the program. So joystick gremlin will see your physical devices, but your games will only see joystick gremlin, or VJoy, basically, as the joystick. So if I run that...
So
Go
out
ahead.
of curiosity, you are basically having to program your macros and everything into Gremlin, and then using that input in a VJoy to then map that inside of like Star Citizen or whatever game, if it's not a default control that you're doing.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to map... So... What I'm trying to do is use most of the default controls in Star Citizen and map my current joystick settings to what Star Citizen thinks are the default controls. However, the button on my stick is different than the button that is the default, but I'm telling it to... So I'm switching the button. That way, I will have to do minimal remapping in Star Citizen every 2 months when they come up with a different patch and they erase all of my controls, and
You
I
do
have to
complain
spend
about that every time.
an hour and a
Understandably so.
half redoing all of my controls. So this, it's going to save me a lot of time once I...
This is
Go
open
ahead.
source software?
Yeah, it's open source, so you can download it all for free. It definitely takes some, getting used to and some Googling to figure out all the advanced functions. So the VJoy device has up to 8 axes and 64 buttons and 4 hats for a single device. Now, modern games will support multiple devices. So, for instance, Star Citizen, Arma, because, they'll support you having a throttle and a joystick, or 2 joysticks, or even 2 joysticks and a rudder pedals.
Is that why it's up to 8 axes for 2 joysticks?
Yes, but a slider can be an axis, too. So, for instance, my throttle has a slider on it. My throttle actually has 3 different axes, because it has a left engine and a right engine throttle, and then it has a slider, which is this little thing that basically just an analog thing that I use it for mining, for adjusting the power of my mining laser.
Yep.
So you can also, if you have more than 2 devices, like say you've got rudder pedal, you have 2 joysticks, and then maybe those joysticks even have dials on them. So you're going to have a lot more than just 8 axes. You can add a second or a third or even a fourth virtual joystick to that. So, you can have up to 32 axes. The thing is with each additional virtual joystick you add, you have to remove 1 button from each successive one. So each of the other ones aren't going to get up to 64 buttons. But still, that's enough to really go bonkers. Yeah. And it's really cool. It's every time yesterday when I was messing around with this, I was like, I can do, because the script editor for Thrustmaster is very powerful and you can do so many different things with it. And I was worried about being able to run a macro on a release of a key, not the press down, but also when you depress the key, I was worried about that being able to activate something, but you can totally do that with this program. You can rebind hats to, so you can, if you've got a 8-way hat, you can rebind each of those directions on the hat to a different key, or keyboard stroke, or mouse stroke.
And
too.
For our listeners, what's a hat specifically?
So a hat is typically, if you have, of course, I'm showing you the thumb for listeners. So if you're holding the joystick in your hand, a hat is typically, it's an 8-way or 4-way positional. So Tim is showing you right now what a hat is.
Usually 8.
Yeah. But just to describe it, it's, most joysticks have at least one hat on them where your thumb would sit, and it's a 4 or 8-way positional. So it has north, south,
almost
east,
like
west.
a D-pad, but it centers itself.
Exactly.
It's like a joystick on a joystick.
What it's primarily defaulted to is looking. So it's how you, like, if you push it to the right, you look out over your right wing, push it to the left over the left wing, pull it back, you're looking at your 6, push it forward, you're trying to look up over your nose. It's primarily for that, but you can use it for a lot of other things. Like, I have the top of mine. She's dreaming. Hold on.
Well, it's funny because you were moving your thumb at the same time. I'm like, how the hell is he making that noise?
Yeah, the squeaky weird sound. That's
Jesus.
interesting.
Brandon, go get that checked out. Your joints, man. Your joints.
You need some oil, Brandon.
But yeah, so like in Star Citizen, I have my hat set up as my slew thrusters. So slew forward, slew backwards, strafe right, strafe left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you need a lot of fine positioning depending on what you're doing in Star Citizen. It's
like
not
trying
just
to land a giant cargo ship.
Yeah, I do. So my throttle actually has a hat on it. Actually, it has 2 hats on it, and I use that for my index finger for down, up, sideways, and then I've got another hat that I use for forward and back. And then my joystick actually has 4 hats on it, but 3 of the 4 hats are actual buttons rather than a specific hat. But I do have one 8-way hat that I use that I remap for either viewing. One of them is to switch the camera view, and then the other one is a look back version, because there's actually a look behind you mode in Star Citizen, as well as the other 2 directions I actually use for rolling, because I don't have rudder pedals at the moment. So that way I can have my roll in the game. Otherwise I have no control for rolling. But as you can see, these controls are very, just as an example of what Dracanis and I said, these controls are very specific to the individual, and that's why you need, well, not everybody needs, but
it's
once
nice
you
to have
start
the power and the options.
Yeah, it's nice to have the option to use that. Back in the days when I had, my Satex Cyborg 3D, and the games were much simpler, I didn't need that kind of control. But once you start having more than 10 buttons that you're dealing with and 10 functions, you start to want to get things to work for you and for your personal muscle memory too. So that's been what I've messing with this week.
I was actually reading an article earlier this week about needing to bring back more like crazy controller games. And that's what is for video watchers. Behind me is the Steel Battalion. It's actually a mech sim.
I was going to say, it looks like a mech set.
Yeah. I would love to find one of these for fairly cheap and then modify it to work with Star Citizen just because I could think of so many things. Like Cody was talking about the laser power. Like, imagine having the laser power bound to like something that feels like powerful as you're like, yes, I'm going to
Increase the power to
increase
the
the
laser.
power to the
Well,
laser.
the space games, like the double joystick, is like, isn't that the most? It's hard to get used to, but it's the most ideal because of the extra axes of movement that you have.
Yeah,
compared to,
because
like, flying an airplane or something.
And it's what
The
Brandon and I
sixth
were
off.
talking about with the slew controls, is if you have two sticks, you basically have the slew control built into your stick.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to worry about that.
Yeah, maybe I'll get
time-
another Logitech X Pro, whatever the hell it is, real cheap. Just have double sticks.
Brandon's made me
Run out of
think of
USB
this-
ports fast, eh? Oh.
What I used to have is this crazy PlayStation controller that his thing actually made me think of this. I will have to add this really quick to my background while you guys.
So
if you
Brandon,
have
what
any
do you
questions.
use? What do you use for Microsoft Flight Simulator?
I actually only use the A320 Neo side stick right now. I'd really like to get a throttle quadrant to go along with it, just to have more fine control. And
Do you have a yoke?
especially-
Do you have a yoke setup? or
No, I
ju-
do want a yoke too. I just
Mhm.
have a stick because it's. I got it primarily for Star Citizen, but also for Microsoft
Mhm.
Flight. I do
Yeah.
really want the honeycomb yoke. It's got just a little bit of force sensitive feedback with it. That's kind of like pie in the sky.
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
I would want.
but even the
Brandon's
cheaper
thing is-
Thrustmaster probably wouldn't be too bad. You know,
Yeah, the Thrustmaster's not bad at all.
the
It's-
cheaper one, sort of like the twin to the one I have.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they call it though, Airbus or something, or
Yeah, it's
Whatever.
the Airbus A320 Neo side stick. Or A360? I don't know. It's one of the Airbus. It's one of the new ones that actually doesn't have a yoke in the cockpit anymore. It's actually a honest-to-God side stick.
Oh,
wow.
huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I'll have to see if I can...
This
I know
this
I
is what
actually
used
got to be
use
the
back in
passenger in
PlayStation.
in one of the Snowbirds jets before I retired. They let me be the passenger, and they gave me the stick for a little while. And it's just like that. It's just that, a joystick between your legs, and it's just so responsive. You know, a little bit, and you're like this, and then let go of the stick, and the plane just stays like that. I mean, it's just so responsive. It's so cool. But I didn't even realize. Before that, I didn't even realize that some planes only had joysticks. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Cool.
It's mostly military fighters that do the joystick. But, yeah, as a matter of fact, I think the Airbus is the first commercial, especially jetliner, to have it. Give me just a second.
A random side note: I don't know if you guys are aware, but in the U.S. military, I believe like the drones that they fly are actually controlled by like Xbox controllers,
Xbox and PlayStation controllers, yep.
because
There's
our generations
also-
are just so used to that type of control mechanism. It makes perfect sense just to modify it and make it work.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I want to say the main guns on the Marine. Oh, what's their newer light infantry, Bradley infantry vehicle or something like that, is actually PlayStation controller. So there is actually the on video the Airbus side stick. That's how that plane is flown.
Huh. That's interesting.
cool.
Yeah. So
I like how casually that dude's sitting there. It's kind of like, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're flying a jumbo jet. It's fine.
Well, I mean, if you do that every day, then it's probably pretty
Plane
casual.
flies itself. Why would you?
Well-
why would you worry?
And in my video, it's cutting off the top. They're sitting in a ramp. It's
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Oh.
The stick I have is actually a replica of.
Oh, nice. Ah. Yeah,
But
that's
it's
pretty
basically just a modified Thrustmaster T1600.
Yeah, so any of you guys could use Joystick Gremlin for your stuff, especially if you've got multiple controllers. And
I might actually look into that because the Logitech 3D Pro, which is from like 2003 or something stupid like that, does not play well with Star Citizen. But so it might be nice to have a third-party virtual thing in between it. It'll probably help it out a lot.
Yeah, because you could change the like if you wanted to change, this button to be like, your landing gear and not have to worry about rebinding it in Star Citizen, you can do that. You can just be like, okay, this button this is going to be N now on your keyboard.
My question is, having not played with this type of software very much since I just got mine, is when you're actually at the game software, how do you tell the game software what controllers to use? And then what does it look like when you're using an intermediary
input?
It will come up as VJoy and it depends on the program.
If you use the program, right. If like Star Citizen, you can actually select. They have a whole bunch of controllers in there. You can actually select the specific flight stick combo thing if you happen to have it, which I think that one might
But
be in
that's
there.
for the mappings. That all that controls is which DirectX buttons
That's
are
what I'm saying.
on where. It doesn't actually.
Windows
it's not
now is really
device.
good about like recognizing that's a game controller of some sort. So it's really
Windows is.
They're getting it's
Sorry,
better than it used to be.
It's gotten a
That's what
lot
I'm-
better.
Yeah, well, Windows is good about that, but I have a beef with Windows 10. In order to, because, and I don't know if they've made it better in Windows 11, but it is, again, to do anything you actually want to do, you have to go to the old control panel. The new control panel does not have anything you really want, and including calibration for the joystick.
Yep.
It's
Very
much
frustrating.
better in 11, but calibration is still done in its own old, like, XP era app.
Okay.
It's, yeah. It will
What a
probably
mess.
be one of the last little, like, vestigial things hanging out there.
Which is goddamn frustrating because Microsoft is pushing Windows as a gaming platform
Games.
now. So whatever.
But
that's a whole nother
they
rant.
want you to use an Xbox controller. Xbox controllers work fucking amazing in Windows. Like, fantastic. I use my Xbox controller in most of the games that I play, including, like, Final Fantasy XIV. If I'm, like, moving through the world and I'm not, like, actively fighting in a dungeon or something, I'm moving around with a controller and my feet up on the desk. Star Citizen, I have this that I move around with unless I'm in combat. I even fly with this unless I'm in combat, and then I reach for the stick.
Then honestly, yeah, Joystick Gremlin might work really well for you because of that Xbox controller.
Yeah.
Yeah, as if that anyway, it's time for Colton to tell us about his fun guy.
Let's check the time. We won't blame Cody though.
Yeah.
Well, 30 minutes, Cody.
30
Here
minutes.
you go.
But,
Yeah, I should be.
like, 10 minutes of intro, so it was only a 20-minute topic.
Anyways, so I have a bit of a short one, but I still found it pretty interesting this week. So
Is it short because it's mushrooms?
why even try with you, Brandon? Honestly, I've been guessing mine really good lately. I need to up my game a little bit on that. So I guess I'll go into my spiel now since the reveal is gone. So, well, life is strange. You take all these elements that are created at the beginning of the universe in the heart of a star, or when a star explodes, or when a star does something. It seems like it's all about stars in some way. You lump it all together, you give it some electricity, and bam, you got this thing called life. Now, one of the key tenets of life is that a life form must respond to outside stimuli, which I've said, I think, in an episode 20, I don't know, a long time ago. But it's one of the key tenets of life. And one way that they do that is through communication with members of their own species, as well as other species outside of their own species. So, I mean, look at us. We're on episode...
Spores.
Yeah. What are we on? Episode 89 of TWIL, of this TWIL journey that we're on, and we've talked a shitload, like many hours of talking at this point. At least 89 hours of talking. It's actually pretty impressive. So we definitely check that box that we are, in fact, alive. So you have dogs, cats, lizards, fish, and like most creatures that we refer to as animals tend to have a way of direct communication with their own species of some sort. So when you start to talk about other members of the animal kingdom, it gets a little more wishy-washy. Insects and bacteria/viruses tend to communicate not so much with sounds or gestures, but with pheromones and chemicals. With, of course, some exceptions, because there are some loud-ass insects out there. But the majority of their communication is done non-verbally. And then you even go farther. If you go think about plants, they communicate even less directly with each other. There's no active communication going on when you're talking about plants talking with the other plants. But fungi, or fungus among us, because as Brandon already ruined, are just a little bit different, or at least according to Professor Andrew Adamatsky at the University of the West of England in Bristol, which is kind of a weird-ass name for a university, but it's fine. So he actually studied the electrical impulses that are generated by 4 different species of fungi, enoki, split-gill, ghost, and caterpillar fungi. And he concluded that they actually might communicate in an extremely primitive form of electrical language. And when I say, right, it's weird. Cool, it's cool, but weird. So when I say language, my script went away. I love it. Did not...
It's interesting because I remember seeing the video of like somebody hooking up like electrodes to mushrooms and like getting music out of them. So I wonder
as I said,
what this is leading to.
It's kind of related to that video. I know the one you're talking about. Fungus are weird. Like they're weird amalgamations of plants and animals. That's why they're their own sub thing in the animal kingdom branches and everything.
Then you have that. Do you ever see that? It's a Star Trek spinoff. I can't remember what it was called. It is one of the last ones Star Trek spinoffs where they have that. They have that spore. Yes, myself. Yes. Yeah.
Cool shit, honestly.
That's pretty cool.
So when I say language, I mean like full-on words with distinct meanings to each word. Like legit words, if at least in fungus language. And I'll explain that a little bit. So just for reference, after some quick Googling, I found that the English language consists of about 1 million words total, with plus or minus 100,000, depending on who you're talking to. And the Thai language, because we've talked about that a lot, I have found they have anywhere between 855,000 words and 4 million, depending on translations and other dialects.
Okay, I understand why.
I couldn't find,
I
the English
it.
language one was easy to find because it just went right to the freaking Oxford Dictionary. And the Thai one, I found a bunch of people arguing about, no, it's fucking this number. There's actually only 2,385 different ways to make this sound, and now it's quite interesting.
There's four different like languages.
I know that's why I gave a pretty big range, because I'm sure that 4 million is based on the English to Thai translations, because there's some English words that are in Thai.
And also, there's a lot of loan words. There's a lot of loan words too, and we'll accept that before we get on another tangent.
But the professor found that fungi communicate with about 50 electrical words with other members of their species. So, for example, he found that a fungi at one end of a fallen tree could transmit electrical signals through the little connected tendrils that they have, stating information like where the more nutrient-rich wood is. Or they could transmit info about an injury to distant parts of itself. With the specific, and it's more like a vibration, is kind of, it's a specific timed electrical impulse, and they were kind of able to communicate. At least that's what he found out. So I am certainly not saying that there is some form of like intelligence as we know it. Mushrooms do not have brains. And I want to be super fucking clear about that because this is an anti-mushroom kind of podcast. But kind of interesting little side experiment this guy did. He actually inserted little electrical nodes into the fungi, into their little communication network, and was able to actually stimulate conversation between the fungi. If that makes any sense. Yeah. Kind of like what Cody said about making music. Like, it's not really language, but they're communicating. Two distinct, I can't think of whatever the term is, two distinct bits of the fungi are able to communicate with each other over long distances. Plants don't really do that. Fungi kind of do. It's a weird in-between thing. At least that's according to this guy.
So it almost reminds me of like the neighbor. So my childhood neighbor, he passed several years back, but for the longest time, he would go outside at 6 a.m. and just start barking and get the whole neighborhood dogs barking. And that's kind of what that makes me think of with inserting probes into the mushrooms.
Just getting them going.
Scientist may not know what he's saying or know what he's doing, but he's getting some stuff to go.
They're responding in some way. Yeah, that's actually that's a perfect metaphor. Honestly, it's the same freaking thing. He's just barking at a bunch of fungi. Like it. So
I can picture this guy in his underwear with a cup of coffee and barking. Okay.
Yeah.
Robe. But yeah, absolutely.
So, as far as I can tell, there doesn't seem to be any real practical, like, world application for this, other than just a simple greater understanding of life. And a lot of biologists are not willing to call the electrical fungus words a language, but it's still pretty interesting, and who knows, it's still, it was just discovered like a year ago, so it's still cool shit.
But has he just decided, like, what can a fungus do if it knows another one's hurting? Like, what can it do? I mean,
what can it
do if it knows the wood's good over here?
It knows to.
I mean,
it'll grow. It'll push stuff in that direction. It'll push nutrients in that direction. Because it's not gonna. Because again, life tries to be efficient in this kind of thing. So if it knows that there's nutrient-rich like food and stuff in a certain area, it will actually kind of rebuild itself more towards that area, which makes sense because that's where the food source is.
But has he actually seen a cause and effect? Has he tested it for that?
Again, the biggest things he's done is he essentially used a computer a computer electrical sensor, and just was tied into their little connection, and just kind of, I think he did this experiment over like a year or two or something like that, and just kind of watch between patterns of where stuff is growing. He actually physically cut a couple of the mushrooms, which kind of where he got the idea of an injury response, an injury word, or whatever you want to call it. So he did a little bit of experimentation, fucking around, seeing what happens, and then like, oh, there's a pattern there. Maybe that's a word. Who knows? It's kind of like how humans try to say, oh, dogs have language, only because they've noticed a pattern. But I don't know. Still cool. I mean, again, it's...
So are we going to have new ways of treating athlete's foot because of this?
Just a little electrical stimulation? I know.
What is your athlete's foot saying about you?
Yeah, it'd be like a therapist meeting with your athlete's foot.
This is not a nutrient-rich location.
I could have gone somewhere with this.
Going up.
I almost went somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
So
something rot.
So I will end on that note.
You want me to have a topic in the future because I'm being very gross otherwise, aren't I?
My whole thing is especially with this show, because I see our whole premise is knowledge and understanding is always a good thing, and especially, and I believe that's true if we all believe the same thing here. But I am pretty sure we won't be seeing like a fungi translator anytime on Google, anytime soon. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. Maybe. They are an evil corporation, so we'll see.
So I do have one interesting fact to round out your your topic with. Did you know that scientists believe that the smell of fresh cut grass is actually grass's pain response?
I've heard
And
that.
it's screaming. It's basically screaming into the void that, "Ow, that fucking hurt, you asshole."
Yep, it's pretty sad when you think about it. I try not to think about stuff like that. Just a whole bunch of screaming grass in the spring.
Yeah, and it makes my nose just.
Fucking horrible year for that shit this time. But what isn't horrible is Brandon, tell us about your adventures with docking and resurrecting the not so dead, of course.
Yeah. So behind me, for those of us who are watching the podcast, I have my server rack, and that is actually before I added 2 more servers over the course of the weekend. But I have started playing around with virtualization because I now have a direct attached storage, and then the server that is actually attached to is a kind of made for virtualization. It's got like 128 gigs of memory and I think like 32 total processing cores, and it's absolute nuts. It's really cool.
Wow.
So I've been doing a lot of virtualization with Hyper-V, which I absolutely love. It's a Microsoft product. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a Microsoft fanboy through and through. I hate Linux.
What?
Yeah.
What? Nah.
Yeah. I have dabbled with Linux before and just can't do it. And like honestly, my place of employment is an entirely Windows workshop, Windows run facility. All of our servers and all of our backends, it's all Windows. So a lot of this is to test and play and learn and further my career, further my education, to get me further in a career, hopefully. So one of the things that I was trying to do over the weekend, after my interview, and this is where the resurrecting the not so dead comes in, I was asking my hopefully future coworkers about how they stay current, up with events. And so the job I applied for is for a security analyst position inside the company that I already work with. And so I was specifically asking them how they keep up to date with the latest security threats. Because there's a bunch of different like paid subscription for cyber intelligence briefs, but usually those are like purchased by your company to the tune of several $1,000s a year. And a lot of companies, unless they've already had a major attack, don't really like to spend that much on security. So it's more of a private venture if you're in a industry that maybe isn't as prone to security issues. So they, surprisingly, when I brought up podcasts and YouTube videos and books, they were like, well, yeah, we don't really do that because when we clock out for the day, we don't want to spend time listening to, podcast about the stuff that we were literally just doing earlier in the day. And it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. So they recommended RSS feeds. So I thought RSS feeds were dead. I remember Google stopping supporting their RSS reader. And basically what RSS feeds are is kind of the shrunk down headlines of the news that you get almost like email through this RSS client. And it kind of displays it like email. You click on it and you can read through it. Or,
It's
depending
like-
on...
I was thinking about it the other day. Actually, it's like a primitive
News.
notation or modern notification. If you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like, hey, this website has made this article. Just that's all it is. It's a
Yep.
way to make the internet smaller and more personalized.
Yeah, exactly. So there's apps that I could have installed on my phone or on my computer or whatever, but I have all of this heavy hardware that is heating up my house and murdering my electric bill, so why not put it to good use? And so one of the things that I was looking at doing is getting a RSS feed aggregator on my server so that I could set it up. And if I had time and I was on my phone, I could just go to my feed aggregator on my self-hosted website and look at all the feeds I've subscribed to and kind of read the news that way, or on my computer, or wherever. Doesn't matter. Rather than having to use a specific app. Well, the problem with that is all of the RSS aggregators and news aggregators that I could find run in Docker or run in Ubuntu and require all sorts of customization and scripting.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I have a couple other things that are running on Ubuntu on my server in a VM, and it's hodgepodgey. I didn't really like it. But I'm like, this Docker thing, I keep running across, like, especially free or open source apps love Docker. And what a Docker image is really supposed to do is it's supposed to basically be a way of programming in an application or some sort of function and removing it works on my system, I don't know why it's not working on your system. Because basically what it does is it builds, when you build a Docker image, it pulls in all of the requirements into it. And it doesn't matter what architecture you're on, what host operating system you're on. It has all of its requirements
So it's
in it.
more like a mini VM?
Exactly.
Kind
Yep. Self-contained. Now, the unfortunate thing is Docker started on Linux. So all of the Docker instructions on how to download a Docker and run it and configure it and everything like that is all built with some form of Linux in mind, because it's almost native in Linux anymore. Whereas in Windows, Docker is now officially supported, but it's not really supported well.
Is Microsoft Azure? Is it?
So yes, if I wanted to pay money and not utilize the heavy hardware that is sitting in my house,
Move to cloud, baby. It's all
I
the
could
cloud.
move to the cloud, and there's a lot better implementation of Docker in Azure, because there are actually Azure images that are basically a custom Windows Linux. Or Microsoft Linux, not Windows. Microsoft has made these custom variants of Linux for Azure to run Docker images and stuff like that. But there is now Docker Desktop, which will run on Windows platform. And you can either have it tie into the Windows subsystem for Linux, or you can have it tie into Hyper-V. And after a lot of trial and error, I finally switched away from Windows subsystem on Linux and went to Hyper-V. And that started working better, but still, to get all of these images in and configured, like, everything is done through environment variables in the Docker image, which is done either during the image construction process, which Windows doesn't do well, or during the run process, which Windows uses slightly different syntax for. And so you can't just copy the, Docker run -d and then all of your environmental variables. You can't copy and paste that into PowerShell.
You gotta
have to-
you gotta convert it to PowerShell language.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell PowerShell uses.
Oh no.
Yeah, and that
Is that
took
MS-DOS?
me...
Is that what it uses? What does PowerShell use? It's not the same.
PowerShell
thing.
is its
different than
own
DOS.
thing.
It's its own
Yeah.
thing.
Sorry. Go on.
PowerShell is its own scripting language. But it anything you can do in the MS-DOS command prompt, you can do in PowerShell.
But it
But
shouldn't
then
be
you can do
confused as
so
the
much
same.
more.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not the same. It's
It's
different.
backwards compatible, but it's not the same.
Yep.
So you can't you could run some Linux VMs. Why can't you install Docker to one of those?
So the problem is you can't run Docker in an already virtualized environment, because I was going to do
Because
exactly
it is
that.
its own
It's
virtualized
a VM within a VM, baby. That's an
Yeah.
Inception level VMs.
So
Which you
what I
can
was-
do that. You can run VMs in VMs, but you
Docker
start
doesn't
getting
take a huge
weird
performance hit.
Yeah, you start things start getting
Networking
weird.
doesn't like it. It's a weird NAT problem. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So what I had started doing is getting this other server, which is currently just a high availability mirror of the server below it. I had started to build this up as just a straight up Linux server that was going to run all the Dockers. And then I had an epiphany and realized, oh my God, okay, I can't just copy paste this, because I started just like, okay, can I just get anything to run? I don't even care if it has all the right environment variables and stuff. Can I just
You just
get
wanna
a Docker
see,
to run? And I got it to run, and it's like, okay, so it understands what to do with this image. Now I just need to figure out how to actually do the environment variables, and reading through Microsoft documentation, which is always a nightmare.
Real crapshoot
And-
with that shit. Learn that real quick.
Oh, yeah. So finally got the first RSS reader kind of functioning. Didn't really like how that looked. Didn't really like what it was doing. Got rid of it. And now I'm using Fresh RSS, which Colton has an account on it too. I really like it. It's been fun so far. I finally actually today got through all of the backlog since I installed it over the weekend. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many of my feeds actually have new stuff tomorrow, and what the average like daily intake is. Because it's good to have information, but if there's too much in there, then you're
Yeah.
just going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, to hell
Fuck
with
this.
Yeah,
10 emails are good. 10,000 are pointless.
exactly. So that was one of the Docker images I got to play with, and that was the thing that is kind of resurrecting the not so dead, because RSS is still alive and well in especially the self-hosting community and
Blew my
the
mind.
more professional community. I was absolutely amazed at some of the stuff I was finding on RSS feeds.
Gotta be working on getting the Tech Pirate on that shit too. We need to put an RSS feed for the Tech Pirate. Get it set up.
Yeah, we should. We actually need to
Our
do
tens
some
of
major
fans need to read.
revisions.
Also true.
Yeah. But kind of the one downside to RSS is that none of the good and bad, none of the ads come through. Good for the reader, bad for the company providing the content. So what I've noticed a lot of the feeds that I'm subscribed to do is they basically give you like the first 3 or 4 paragraphs and like the main image. And then after that, you have to click continue reading, and it opens it up in a new tab, and it's the full website.
Yeah, that's
Which
more than fair.
is-
More than fair.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
way you find out right away
'Cause-
is like, oh, this is actually an interesting article. Sure, I'll go
Exactly.
to see more. Oh, I'm not interested. Don't care.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
that's reasonable.
It's fair.
Yeah. So no, I think that works out pretty well. And then I've played with a couple of different dashboards, just because I now have so many self-hosted apps and stuff that I'm forgetting like what I've named, like certain links to get into certain things.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, there's all of these really cool personal dashboards that I see all the time on our self-hosted or our home lab is one of my favorite subreddits, our home lab. And I see all these guys with these cool dashboards, and I'm like, I kind of want to do that. So that's the rabbit hole I've been diving down the last couple days. Is I tried Hemidol, and it was cool, but I didn't really like it because it supports users, which is great. Because I do eventually, like, especially Colton, you're eating up all the stuff that I've been self-hosting. So it'd be cool to be able to give you a dashboard so that you could be like, oh, this is all the cool shit that I have access to. And like Cody and Tim too, if you guys wanted it. So I do want something that's multi-user, but Hemidol just didn't really have a lot of features. And then I tried another dashboard called Flame that looks beautiful. Super simple interface, very easy to customize, just looked really good. Didn't support other users. And I just switched over to, oh crap, what is the new one called that I'm playing with?
Some Viking term, I'm sure.
No, it's, well, I guess maybe Fenris.
Yep.
Yeah.
Told you.
Called it.
So
You called Colton stuff, he's calling your stuff.
Need to get a win. I haven't gotten a win in months.
This Fenris looks more interesting. I just started playing around with it, actually on my lunch break today at work. Because, yeah. I'm a nerd. That's what I do for fun is play with servers.
Home labs.
Home labs.
What do you call it? Well, other than home, is Home Labs a reference to anything, or is it just what you call it? Or is there a software?
It's actually an industry standard term.
Oh, okay.
So it actually
It's a
started out
playground
back
for the
in
house.
the days of Cisco. Like when you would have a Cisco home lab, so you'd have like a little desktop 19-inch rack that you've got, your Cisco firewall device, your Cisco router, and then your Cisco switch, and you can get in there and configure it and basically have a lab at home to try stuff on to help you pass the different tests and certifications and kind of level up. And it's grown. And some of the guys, there's another subreddit that is Home Data Center, and it's guys with basements that have like 2 or 3 racks full of shit, and I'm just like,
Well, that's
but
you in like 5 years.
yeah,
That's you if you buy a house.
It legitimately
Brandon doesn't
might
need
be
a
if
house
I can get enough.
to get
rent a
that
house.
type of thing. He doesn't need that.
Well,
He's renting
that is-
now, and look what he has.
Yeah, but
Janice will find a way.
He needs ear defenders to sit in his living room, though.
Well, see, here's the thing: when Lucas moves out,
You're gonna have one ear; it's gonna go bad.
yeah. I mean, the good thing is
You
honestly,
need a
like,
dedicated AC. It's going to have its own
heat.
power, circuit.
so
It's gonna be-
at
See,
one
already
point,
thinking.
when I was going to buy Cody's place, I had plans drawn up for a basically 4-car garage, 2.5 wide, and then like a little over 2 deep, and then I was going to take basically 1 car area and section it off to be a home office, and then have 1 like soundproof closet that has like a full height rack in it.
Build a full-on ventilation system and
Exactly.
They're
it
gonna
was going to
think that
have
you're doing
like
mechanical
you-
vents on the side that, depending on
you'd
the
also need a
internal
soundproof-
temperature, external temperature.
that would have been cool.
You'd also need
yeah, soundproofed it.
an audio recording room somewhere
Uh,
for your podcast. Yeah.
I don't. I mean, if the servers are in a different, separate building, and I just, soundproof my office a little bit, like
Yeah. Get rid of any
that
echo.
works. Oh yeah, eventually.
Mm.
That's some of my goals, but I don't
But
know.
of course, you're gonna need a solar system to go along with it, just to subsidize your
yeah.
electricity.
Yeah,
wind
no,
generation.
absolutely. solar and like a little wind turbine and
Heat pump.
yep,
Your heating bill
anything
will
and
go
everything
down,
I
though.
can. Yeah, right. I mean,
you pipe the heat that's generated from your servers into your house, and now you've offset everything a little bit.
Well,
AC
only in the
bills
winter.
don't help. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you figured out half the problem.
yeah.
There's things you can do.
Yeah, or
Oh, yeah.
just move to the north slope of Alaska and then do it there.
There you
No.
go.
See, I want
Actually,
to
the
ride
internet
my
sucks.
motorcycle more than I do right
yeah.
now, which means I need to move somewhere just a little bit warmer.
To be fair,
No. A little bit warmer, Cody. Not 100-degree average.
It's
Fuck that
not
shit.
It's not 100-degree average, and the AC is better here.
to
Seriously,
100
and the
degrees.
electricity
Great.
is
Do I have
cheaper.
AC on my motorcycle?
You're going too
But-
fast to care.
But it's
Not if
I'm stuck
comfortable
in
to
that
ride the
traffic.
motorcycle
Look,
here.
look,
Actually,
Look, I'm from one of the coldest places in Canada, and I have no problem driving the motorcycle around here.
You get
The
used
only
to
time I have problem is around this time of year.
Skin will look great.
It's a rainy season, so you got to try to time it so you don't get caught in the rain. You can find a roof to get under if you're gonna go ride.
It's a warm rain,
which is
though.
pretty
Comfortable.
easy. Yeah, it's warm rain. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
No thanks.
but I tell you, it's nice to be able to ride year long. Oh my god! I mean, there's where I lived, it was so freaking cold, and even in the summertime, it still felt cold. I mean, it just yeah. If you wanted to go to work in the morning, you had to dress up warm, and then in the afternoon, you'd be sweltering, getting stuck in traffic on a motorcycle.
That's about how it has been the last couple times I've ridden the motorcycle to work. It's like keep your PJ pants on, throw your blue jeans over the top, throw on a light sweatshirt, a heavy sweatshirt, your riding jacket with your quilted insert.
Yeah.
And
do
then
that collar all the way up.
collar all the
on
way
your jacket.
up, your hot
Gloves.
leather gloves. And then, riding home, you're unzipping the quilted liner out, and you're riding in a T-shirt with, like, your zipper half down, the lightest riding gloves I have. And just,
Ends up taking you over half an hour either way preparing your equipment. Yeah, but here I know what I have to wear. Next to nothing.
Fair enough.
Long trips, I put on the gloves and I put on the motorcycle jacket, which is mostly a mesh with protection net. And
Yeah, maybe have a poncho in your bag.
footwear, some long pants. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But just being able to ride year round is nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I keep looking other states and other areas of Colorado, because if I go a little more southeast, I can get a lot more riding season.
Well,
But
if you
still
can-
not
if
have
you
to deal
if you
with 100-degree weather.
if you end up being a home worker all the time,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. You can work anywhere in the world.
No.
No.
So because of our labor policy and taxes and everything, I have to live in a state that has a resort.
There was this one guy that's on the Thailand Discord where he kept his residence as California, but he
Okay,
did not.
yes.
He
do
just
a lot of
if
things,
there
you
was a
just don't wanna get
meeting,
caught.
yeah.
Yeah.
He just
That-
if there was an
They'll find
emergency
you.
meeting, he had to buy a next day ticket back to the U.S. But as far as
A
they've
lot of money.
But he saved at least that much money living here.
Be an adventure. I'd do that for a meeting. I think it'd be fun.
Now, the thing I keep thinking of is it's like, I could probably get away with, like, getting a big motorhome, like after Luke graduates and is thinking about going to college, like, okay, well, I'm going to get a big motorhome. And then
that's just for your servers, though.
wow. I would have to
The trailers
find
for the
someone
servers.
to, like, rent some rack space from.
No. So you get a horse trailer, you weatherproof it, and instead of like brake lights and
Starlink
shit,
doesn't have enough uplink.
yet
Mhm.
by that point.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I have thought about, like, I could have a permanent address in Colorado and, like, motorhome around the United States for a little while to figure out where I want to live. And as long as, I live in Colorado for the most part, I could probably get away with it for a little while.
Where are the other locations? What other states have the resorts?
Oh, God.
Has been an hour, gentlemen, just so you know.
Oh,
Yep.
This is the after show, but before the after show.
oh, right,
the
right.
pre-after
Okay.
show.
I know for sure
Does have to be other
Colorado,
states.
Utah.
But other countries have Vail Resort. Like, it has the same company resorts, though.
Yes, but I couldn't go, even though Whistler Blackcomb is in Canada, and it's available
There's
on
Australia, too. New Zealand
yes.
has them.
and now there's one in Switzerland. But because I'm a U.S. citizen, I would have to stay in the United States. Let's see. Minnesota, Ohio, New Hampshire, Colorado, Pennsylvania,
Wow.
California, New York, Vermont, Indiana, Missouri. Yep.
Nice.
And then
Never would have thought Missouri, though.
Yeah, that's a surprising one for me too. What one was that? Where the hell was that?
Maybe anything in Wyoming? Like Jackson
Weston,
Hole?
Missouri. No, surprisingly, no Wyoming.
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
no Montana.
No Montana.
Or
Two
Washington.
different Australias. Oh, there's also Hidden Valley in Eureka.
I say we pause this conversation and we can continue in the after show.
Okay.
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 Cody can do some really creative editing.
Yeah. Cody, where can we find you?
I am Cody Stratman. You can find me here on... Well, actually, I'm going to be going back to class in the morning, so you won't be able to find me here for the next few weeks. So that's a lie. As Maury
Is this your
said,
last week
and
with
that
us?
was- Yeah, for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can find me on YouTube as Striving to Fail. Colton has some really cool ideas, so I'm going to do my best to actually utilize some of those. You can also find me. I have some ideas for some articles on the Tech Pirate, so you can find me there. You can follow me on the Insta, where I will add photos like this baby back here, and maybe time lapses. I'll have to figure out how to put those on there. I don't know if I can, but yeah, something like that. They'd have to be vertical, don't they? Never mind. Screw that. God. Vertical video. No. You can find me
Instagram,
fighting
everything's
vertical video wherever I can find it.
You're not going to win this argument.
I will.
Just a fact.
Again, until our eyes migrate like halibuts, I will win this argument. If we all suddenly become like halibut, then I will lose the argument, and it will be fair.
You can take on TikTok and all the short form videos that are out there. Go, Cody.
Yep. Tim, where can we find you?
Okay. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Our Thai Journey. And I won't be here next week. I have guests coming on Sunday and staying for 3 days. I just thought of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Tech episode!
That's it. I'm
Colton,
done.
where can we find you?
The name's Colton Roper. You can find me on all the socials as Seeker4761, vertical video all the way. And I'm also at Seeker4761 twitch.tv/Seeker4761, where I stream pretty consistently 3 days a week at this point. So check it out. Sometimes I stream with that gentleman above me, way out Wednesdays, where we play some random flying games or whatever game we want to play that day. Depends how we're feeling.
Yep.
Take us home,
Originally,
Brandon.
it was going to be sci-fi based, and then I
We
made
expanded
a
it.
weak excuse to fly World War II.
Yeah, we played a lot of War
planes.
Thunder.
I
So-
feel like it's just War.
It is really good.
because I
We've
usually
played.
avoid
We've
that.
played
We
three.
played Star Citizen,
We played-
and
Oh,
No
okay.
Man's Sky.
yeah,
We played other
and
games.
Starbound. We played Starbound once too.
Oh. Okay.
Anyway,
Suck it, Cody. I don't know. I was trying to think of something else. I'm like, I got nothing.
Ooh, it's so silent.
I
throw it to
introduced
someone,
Brendan.
Colton?
I threw it to
Oh.
you.
oh,
Yeah,
Take us home.
and then he didn't catch it. He let the ball go by. He's like, wait, where?
Boys, this is episode 89. I love
He's
it.
he's like the dog that like you throw the ball and the dog stares at you like, really, I'm supposed to catch? Like, no, you go get that.
You stupid fucker. I already brought that to you
You
once.
stupid human.
I am Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis. You can find me on twitch.tv/Captain Dracanis. And it's fuzzing
Look
in
at
and
that.
out, but
Hold it
had
further
a
away.
custom little
There we
sticker
go.
made.
There.
Cool. That looks real cool.
Yeah.
I really like that. That came out a lot better than I thought. You can also find me on thetechpart.net, where I should start contributing more often, hopefully. Yeah, we do Way Out Wednesdays, and now that I'm not dying and or dead, we'll resume that this Wednesday. And yeah, maybe we'll even try a little bit of Star Citizen. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. See what's up with that. But yeah, you can also find me as the Tech Pirate on YouTube. I haven't posted a video there for a while. I really need to. There's quite a bit of good content that I could easily come up with. So yeah, that's where we're at. And thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTwil. If you'd like to contact us, you can, of course, send an email to twil@techpart.net. See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Now we can continue.
Yeah.
I was just gonna keep my mouth quiet to see how long it would take for somebody to say
I
something.
was enjoying Colton's face expression.
Like, guys, we're done. We can finish this later.
Like, what is this conversation turned into? It's like road tripping with
It's
Brandon
perfect
and
after
servers.
hours. Stop it. That's
Now
fine.
with road tripping and road tripping with Brandon, motorcycles and
It'd be fun to.
I don't know. Like,
trailers. If gas isn't $20 a gallon in 5
He
years,
has a motorcycle. Who cares?
well, yeah, but it still burns gas.
maybe the Fallout universe is real. It's
they
just the
do-
timeline has been extended by a little bit.
Darkest timeline, baby.
They do have electric motorcycles now. They're starting to get
Even
there.
Harley has one.
Yeah, the live wire sucks though. The design of it is not great. The mileage of it is not great.
You see the one that the Ukraine army
it's a
got
good flavor.
donated to them? It's something that doesn't look anything special, but the damn thing will do 100 kilometers an hour, and it'll go for about 3 or 4 hours,
As an electric?
and takes about an hour to charge. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's. It doesn't really appeal to anybody, but what it can do is quite amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So that is. Elec Atom motorbike. So that is actually. That's
Belfast.
almost like a. It's something kind of between an e-bike and an electric dirt bike. I have looked at something like that. The problem is they don't go fast enough for true commuting. They top out at 55. So 90 kilometers an hour.
Maybe more of an inner city type of thing, it seems like.
Exactly. But the problem is they can't be
90
licensed.
Elec. Yeah.
So they're off-road use only, but so many of the trails and stuff around here are no motor vehicles. And recently it just got clarified that e-bikes are technically motor vehicles and you're not allowed to have them on non-motorized trails. Which is
Stupid.
Well, I
I
mean,
think the word
to
you're
be
looking for
fair,
is stupid.
they don't want people tearing
Those things
up.
they'd be a great little commuter though in the city if you could.
Yeah, like, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like my skateboard. Like,
Design to
I
carry
can
heavy
rip
gear.
all over town on my skateboard, but that would be even faster, and I could put, like, saddle,
You could probably go to Crested Butte on that.
baskets or something.
It'd be topping it out.
It'd
but
be...
It'd be brutal. It would be.
It'd really be brutal going up.
Yeah, you could sing that
Depends
song.
if you
You
change
know,
the-
I can't drive 55 all the way up there.
Depends if you could change
You're
the gear
welcome,
ratio a
audio
little bit.
listeners.
Get a couple extra miles per hour out of it.
Well, and I mean, here's the other thing. I also am close to 300 pounds. A lot of these electric
good point.
e-bikes, scooters, and skateboards are not designed for someone
They're not
my
designed
height
for the
and
hefty
weight.
people.
No, they're really not. Unless you custom make. Oh my God, there's a guy, I was on Reddit, and there's a guy that custom made his skateboard, and it will do 70 miles an hour. And he's like 200 pounds. And I'm just like, and he actually has a video of him like on the highway, like ripping down the road with his little Insta360 camera with a GPS speedometer. And like he hit every bit of like 70 miles an hour on this thing. And I'm just like,
If you hit a pebble, you're dead. You're just dead at that
If
point.
you try to do anything, you're.
I mean,
you couldn't turn
he-
at that speed.
he had on like full helmet and basically a full MotoGP suit.
It just
So,
contains
it
contains
would
your body
hurt.
parts.
Yeah, well, it lets you skid without burning. Is
But
really
when
what
you
it
but
is.
when you hit something, you're still jelly in a sack,
Oh,
in
yeah.
a meat sack.
Oh yeah.
Imagine being
Makes
passed
the
by
cleanup-
on the
makes
freeway
cleanup a
by a guy on a skateboard.
Yeah. So my board tops out with me on it at 25, and I've done that exactly twice, and I don't like it. I am quite happy at like 12 to 15. That's my comfort zone. That's where I feel like I'm getting enough speed that I'm getting to where I want to go quick enough, without that like ever-present oh god, I'm gonna die feeling.
Yeah.
So that's I'm happy there. I would like to custom build a board that could do a little more, but mostly just because I want that little bit more acceleration to get, away from like stop signs and stuff.
Going up hills a little faster.
And especially uphill, yeah.
Yeah, Crescent Butte. Yeah.
So, well, and I mean that may not be a problem here soon, because the other day
They're flattening Crested Butte.
No,
You're
I
into those
may be
fucking
able
hills.
to work from home.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Which means if I want to run to the store and grab something special on a lunch break, I don't have to go down the rec path. And I did that the other day at work. I posted pictures of it on Facebook, like right after they opened up the rec path. And I put 8 total miles on my board, and it's, I think, 7% grade on some of that. And like going down, it's great. Like I left work with like 75% battery, and like part of the way down I actually had to hop off, grab my board, spin the wheels for a couple minutes to discharge it because it had topped the battery off.
Oh,
and then
because
hop back
you're...
on it.
Oh.
The brakes are regenerative, so if you get to a 100% full battery, you lose brakes.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it starts buzzing in your hand, and it's
stop.
like, you need to either get off or go faster. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you need to go fast, you need to accelerate downhill.
Mama, I'm going fast.
Yeah. But I mean, it was a blast. I went all the way down from where I work up at Mount Crest Butte, all the way down to Clark's Market in town at the far side of town, and then all the way back up. And it took me an hour and a half, just because I also stopped to eat, and that took me about 20 minutes. But I mean, it was about a half-hour ride down and about a half-hour ride up, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, going back up, I could have used more power and more.
There we go,
range.
and that's our public service announcement to everybody.
More power.